We glad to have you here in our city. In regards to, is this new Springbrook accounting system, is it GAAP or GSABP, is it compliant with those compliance standards?
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm just curious, how did the accounting system close out and balance in March when that duplicate entry was made? Like, I'm still very confused as to how that could have happened. And then I'm also confused as to how that impacted the amended budget of like $1 million that was presented, I think, in May of 25. Like, it just, the numbers aren't aligning for me.
Okay, I'm going to address the first question. I might need a little more information on the second question. The first question, as far as closing out the months, if the bank accounts were performed on a monthly basis, yes, that would have been caught at the end of February instead of in the middle of March. That's the easiest explanation that I have for you. Again, the previous finance director was ill and was working from home and not in the office every day. The staff that does the monthly SERS accounting and makes the monthly payments, obviously they were in the office every day. So there's some miscommunication there between one person trying to work from home and keep things running from their perspective to the clerks in their office, in the office doing their job on a daily basis, okay? The second, the $1 million, what?
So you're telling me that in March, hold on, let me finish. In March, the accounts didn't balance. Is that, because there would have been a credit coming from somewhere, so we weren't balancing our accounts in March, either the accounting system or the 13 bank accounts. That's correct? In
Yes,
assuming
ma'am.
that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then, yeah, it doesn't make sense, though, then how we would have presented an amended budget, well, not we, but how the city would have presented an amended budget to council and not fully disclosed. So I'm guessing then these pension spikes were included in that amended budget, but not fully disclosed. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah, it was, they were included in there, and council was not aware of
Okay,
of that
then
bill.
how did that impact then? So we had this amended budget, and then we had these funds that we didn't really have to pay. So then how, I'm trying to understand, because I don't have the details or anything in front of me, but how is that correction made then, or what was that budget impact? Like, I'm not fully understanding that.
I don't understand the question.
So I'm assuming what you're trying to get at is that yes, an additional amount was requested, I believe, in the amended budget for personnel expenditures.
Right.
And so at the end of the day, or when the audit is closed out at the end of the fiscal year, that just means that there was more put in the budget for that line item than was actually spent.
So is that why then the June 30th balance was 277 off from the 7-1 balance?
It would have been reduced.
No, that's,
It would have been reduced by that amount? Because
I think
there
you're
are two
mixing
different.
apples and oranges there.
Okay. I guess I'd like to see those. Is that public information? Can that information be shared to the
You
public?
can make a FOIA request.
Yeah,
That
you
will
can
be
just-
addressed at the Wednesday
can-
meeting. We can go into more why I
Yep.
think you're doing apples to oranges there.
But if you can email me your question, then I can make sure that we address that on Wednesday.
Okay. All right.
Like, I wasn't following that last one.
Okay. And I'm trying to think. I emailed some council members. Ben, did I have
Yeah,
other
I
questions?
was just going to say, I've got a copy of Nicole's questions that I got last night, so I'll share those with Matt, and as you deem appropriate without breaking quorum, you can share them with the other council members, please, and Linda,
Well,
obviously.
I've emailed her.
Did
So
you get
can
it
you
to
just go
everybody?
ahead and read what other questions I have in there?
Yeah, let's see. I think you have one more.
Does it deal with the special agenda items?
Did they do?
This does. This
Okay,
is
great.
this
Go
is in
ahead.
regards to pension spiking. How and when were the duplicate entry errors corrected in the accounting system?
Yes. Yeah, how is that? Like, were they deleted or were there offsetting transactions? Like, how did that
No,
happen?
one of the entries was reversed. So
Okay.
an entry was made on February 4th.
Yeah.
An entry was made on March of 13th.
Yeah.
Once that duplicate entry on March of 13th was discovered, that entry was reversed. So if
Okay.
you look in
In
the account
March?
history, yes, if you look
Okay.
at the account history, the GL history, you'll see where both journal entries were made
Okay.
and where the duplicate was reversed out.
Okay.
So there's no hiding, no deletion, no,
Okay.
it's all in the
That was
audit.
part of my other question. Do I have anything else on there, Ben?
I'm looking to see related to pension spiking.
Not.
I don't believe so, Nicole, but I appreciate you sending these along to all of us. And again, the issues that we are not able to discuss today, we'll get into next Wednesday as well.
Thank you.
Steph Chalk, 21 Lafayette, and thanks for being here today. I'm not going to talk about what I was going to talk about, obviously, because I'm going to stick to the agenda, but the 277, 721 was the number that was, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but the closing budget from 23-24, that was the missing amount that was the starting budget number for the beginning account in 24-25. So in some way, at the July meeting, I pointed out that it was $277,000. It's $277,721 different from a closing number to the beginning number. So somewhere, and that's where I mentioned it, somewhere between 5 p.m. on 6:30 and 7/1, that money vanished. So I don't know what entry, et cetera, but it's from the resolution.
So let me just address that, because I think, again, you're talking about two separate fiscal years, okay? So the 277, 721, 51, that was paid in March of 2025 was for fiscal year 24, 25. The additional amount, which I'm not going to get into because it's not the
We
scope,
don't have to do. Yeah.
dealt with beginning balance on July 1st of 2023, not 2024. You're talking fiscal year 23, 24. You're talking prior
Wouldn't that
fiscal
be on
year.
7, wouldn't that start on 7/1?
It would have started on 7/1 of 2023, not 24, because the entries were made at June 30 of 2024.
Okay.
put
I
things in
don't want
balance.
to take up a lot of time on that. I'll send a note on it and just explain what I'm trying to express here. I hear a lot of, gee, I wish we would have known, and what can we do to make sure this doesn't happen again? And those are all great comments, but I don't expect that every one of you, and even you, Ben, would know all those numbers and all those entries. It's just not conceivable that that would happen. But when you have an audit that's 2 years late, shouldn't there be a red flag that says something's going on here? I mean, to me, you don't have to know the numbers to know that something is walked up when your audit can't be completed. So that should be the red flag that says, hey, council, we have to do something because this isn't happening. Well, we're getting a new auditing system or a new accounting system, et cetera, ad nauseum, but that's a problem. And that's why you guys are here, is to take care of those problems. So when you see a red flag like that, I heard tonight, I heard this morning that this will be taken care of because there's a law against it. There was a law against how you were managing the finances before, and you didn't satisfy the requirement around KRS of how over you could go on the budget. That was a law. So just because there's a law there doesn't mean it's being followed. I would recommend from a stewardship standpoint that you do follow the law. That's a great start. But you got to know the law in order to follow it. So it's like, I can't break the rule unless I know what the rule is, right? So I would think from a stewardship standpoint, you would spend more time on knowing what you're responsible for, knowing what those red flags might be that give you an early warning that, wow, something's going on here that we're not in control of. So just take the time when you're doing all this to make certain that you know what those red flags are so you can act upon them. Am I allowed to ask what the reserves are? Is that off the reservation here?
It's truly off, but it's on, yeah,
Do we know what our
We'll
reserves
cover
are
that next
today?
week for sure,
it'll be there next week.
Finance Committee?
because we're going to cover our
Next
current
week's
budget.
great. Okay, good. From a governance standpoint, I think you need a decision-making process within this organization that will empower a lot of people, there'll be accountability, and you won't have the disjointed effort, because right now it looks disjointed as to how our city is being managed and overseen and running. So I would just, you take the 277, 721, you take the 322,000 and change, 498 I think it is, and you're up over 600,000. Then you throw on top of that what we find that the the $850,000 loan that was not on the books, and you're up to $1.4 million right away, and that's without accounting for additional help to manage finances and with all of the extra work that's being completed. So I don't, again, some of you have heard it from me, but I don't know how much is enough for you to wake up and say, hey, this is too much, this is out of control. Obviously, we can go pretty high, we're finding out. We all have a high threshold on this committee. We all have a high threshold of what we will tolerate. There needs to be some accountability. Thanks.
I'd like to follow up that real quick. You know, we rely on the administration and the executive branch for a lot of our information and a lot of our knowledge when it comes to how the statute should be portrayed. And I think it's been obvious how I feel in the last couple of years that we haven't been following those exactly correctly. And when we do call them out, they're not honored by our administration. I think that's why we're here today. I think, unfortunately, we can't count on the executive branch administration to follow these rules. They've been hiding things from us. And as Tim said, is it out of our purview to handle things with the city administrator? It is. But at what point, and I've said this before, at what point are we responsible? At what point do we represent them? You know what I mean? And sometimes we have to take actions that we are uncomfortable with. And he's right, but we do our best to follow the procedures they give us, but they're not even following their own. I think it's time we act.
Elizabeth Allegrini, 45 Lockwood Place. I think this is allowed. Tim, please cut me off if this is not, because this was discussed. Jeff, you mentioned, how Matt has uncovered, and he wasn't here for the pension spiking for all that, and he has done that. That may be a true statement, but included in that is that payment that was made illegally. So you have that. And then let's talk about the accounts not being balanced on a monthly basis. He's been here 3 years, and
Elizabeth, I think that does go into Wednesday's meeting. The first statement was
Okay.
absolutely fine.
Okay, here's my statement. We have spent, according to what Steph said, we're up to about $700,000 that we probably, we need to stop the bleeding. And at what point are we just going to say, when we have the head of our HR department who cannot follow policy, is council okay? The people here, and it's evident, who is saying that it is okay that we do not follow policy. We don't follow policy for payments that are made illegally without council's approval. We don't follow policy regarding the HR issues and that. I'm not going to go into that. But at what point do we say we have no trust? It is a loss of trust, and I don't care. That's what's going throughout the community right now. Can we trust the administration right now and anything that they say? I heard it after the last meeting with with citizens. Hey, he said this, but do we trust what is being said? That trust is lost. And we're representing the taxpayers. If you are okay with what has been going on within our city, what you're saying is you do not believe that policy needs to be followed. And if that is what you believe, then that speaks volumes for how the city is run. If you don't agree with what has been going on and how the city's been run and the decisions and the actions that have been made, then you're saying that you want policy to be followed. And that's where we are right now. We are at a turning point in our city. And what needs to be done, I know that it was asked of council members regarding the HR issues, that it was asked that, it was asked, I'll resign if you think I should resign. I think that should still be on the table right now, and is that what is best right now for the city? Thank you.
Good morning, interim mayor, council members, Steve Meggerly, Green Street, Fort Thomas. I'm going to try to keep this on the rails. There was a question about what to do. I think it was either from Councilmember Blau or maybe Councilmember Beazold about this $108,000 that was on top of the interest payment. I would respectfully suggest that under your city code, specifically 30.01 subpart 2, the city treasurer is required to post a bond with surety up to $125,000. And so that's an insurance policy. For example, if there's mismanagement or omission or an error, an accounting error, which could create liability for the city. That was successfully used when the similar type of bond when Finance Director Bob Dew in the city of Covington stole over $800,000, and the city was able to recover a significant amount of money from that surety bond that the city treasurer is required to post. So if you are looking for a means to recover those monies, I would respectfully suggest that you look at that surety bond that the city treasurer has posted in the amount of $125,000, because it sounds like that this was an error of omission and not an error of malfeasance, for which you may be able to collect that back on behalf of the taxpayers. I would also say that those amounts of these bonds, for example, the city administrator is only required to post a bond of $25,000. You have a budget of about $16 million. The last time those bonds were set were like 2001 and 1981. So I would suggest that as your budget has increased in order to prevent potential losses like this, that you should increase the amount of the bonds that you're required of your city officials. I think that covers the pension spiking issue and the potential recovery, and I think I'm within the guardrails of this discussion since that was asked and I'm providing an answer. Secondly, with regard to the HR consultant, I would respectfully ask that part of that RFP include a review of whether or not the executive branch is fulfilling its obligations, especially specifically with the review and the annual reviews of certain city officials who are appointed who have contracts that require an annual performance review to be conducted, and whether or not those performance reviews have actually occurred, and whether or not they are sufficiently adequate to provide to the city in the event that there could be a termination and subsequent litigation. I know of other situations where the cities have found themselves in liability situations where there are contracts where a chief executive, a mayor, does not fulfill the obligations of the performance review, which puts the city in a very precarious position. So I would ask that that HR consultant also review in detail whether or not performance reviews have been done pursuant to Section 12 of the city administrator's contract. I would also suggest that if it is not in the city's personnel code already, that every person named in the city ordinance of department heads undergo an annual performance review by the mayor, submitted to the Law and License Committee for review and a transparent basis. I'm not saying that things like personnel review should go on top on the city's website, but under the current Kentucky Open Records Act, personnel reviews are absolutely subject to open records requests and inspection upon demand by a citizen. So those are a couple of comments that I have. I would also tell the council, and with all due respect to the city attorney who I've known since I was in high school, not every statute regarding city government entertains or contemplates unique situations. And in this situation, the council has a very unique situation where the chief executive officer who appoints the city administrator is not here. And with that said, you have creative opportunities if you decide, because of the circumstances of not having a mayor, and the council does have the ability creatively in order to take the reins and ensure that the city government is managed on an effective day-to-day operation. It is very concerning what people have heard. My wife and I moved to Fort Thomas 2 years ago. She's a wealth manager. She manages a portfolio of almost $1 billion worth of high net worth individuals. She's going to shoot me for saying that in a public forum. But with that being said, when she first heard of these things coming out, her first comment was, if they can't manage their finances, why should we live in Fort Thomas? So if you have people with that kind of commentary just from reading the newspaper and hearing things on websites and Facebook blogs, that is concerning. When you have citizens that have made a conscientious decision to raise their families here, who they have to have confidence in the day-to-day operation and the financial operation of their city government and the good stewardship of their tax dollars. And so that's all I'm going to say as to this. And so I would welcome an opportunity at any point in time to offer any kind of advice, counsel that I could give to y'all based on my experience as an attorney and also as a resident who cares about Fort Thomas. Some of these situations, I was involved in the Walton with the mismanagement. This is starting to pale in comparison to what happened in Walton. Thank you very much.
Well, I was already nervous, and now I need to follow Mr. Magerle, so I will not be nearly as effective, I'm afraid. But I want to talk about the two issues, and I'll stay within the purview of those two issues. Going to issue number one, which is the pension spiking. Last month, Nicole talked about doing root cause analysis. And I think that in this situation, a root cause analysis is absolutely called for. What I heard before was, somebody made the comment, I'm not sure who, that we wouldn't even know about these issues were it not for Matt. Respectfully, I disagree. I'm sure Matt brings attention to some issues. The reason that this issue is before us is because of people in this audience who took the time to actually go line by line through the budget, and Andy, who went line by line to the budget. That is who brought the attention not only to the pension spiking issue, but to many other issues. Not one of the people in this audience who cares about Fort Thomas, who comes month after month and has done for years. Nobody's on any of the commissions in Fort Thomas, even though they've applied for it. Nobody's on Planning and Zoning, nobody's on Design Review Board. I submit that there's people in this audience that know far more than many, many people who work in this building or who are in elected office. So what I'm proposing today is two things for number one, the pension spiking. Number one is that we have a root cause analysis. I heard, and I just wrote them down here, Matt, I think you at least intimated that Kentucky did not provide adequate notice of what our spiking pension liability was. Is that correct?
Not to me personally. I mean, I think
How long have you been with us, Matt, for
noticed,
3 years?
Yeah.
And you didn't know about this until this fall of 2024?
Correct.
So I guess my question with that is, if in fact they did not provide adequate notice, then I think we have an evidentiary basis of going and get our money back. I mean, where did this notice go if it didn't come to you? If it went to the mayor, where did it go to the mayor? Did it go to his home? Did it go here? Why didn't we know about this liability? And that, again, would go to a root cause analysis. So what a root cause analysis is when you lay out all the facts, you look for potential difficult areas or areas of potential error, and then you ask the question of why. Ma'am, I think you said that, and I think you came to one of the whys when you said that there was miscommunication because we had a finance director who was sick at home. And the folks here are maybe doing things without communicating. Well, why? Why do we have a finance director sick at home? If we had someone who was ill, why didn't we have somebody acting in that director's place? I think we, Ben, you said that you did not know that there was this $277,000 issue. You're the head of the finance. Okay.
I mentioned the 169, I think it was. That combined with the 108,000 interest, yeah.
Didn't Adam ask you, so that we're talking about the pension spiking issue?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
My question would be, from a root cause analyst perspective, why? How can our head of the finance committee not know that this issue was even out there? Then to you, Matt, you didn't let council know and you went ahead and wrote a check. Why? Why did you think you had the ability to do that? I think these are all questions that need to be had. So I think part of the frustration that we have here in the audience on Facebook, that I hear out in the public, is that people think that things are being hidden from them. And if we're writing checks without letting council know, the answer is maybe yes. So what I would propose is that we have actual action items. What comes out of a root cause analysis is not beating people up. It's not beating the wet horse. It's coming out with an action plan. If you don't know the actual root, you cannot address the root. And I've sat out here year after year and heard various things being said that we were going to do. I just wrote some of these down. There was going to be an investigation of the financing of One Highland, which I don't think anybody except for Andy still understands. That never happened. We were going to hire a forensic accountant. I didn't hear anything about that today. The investigation that Adam asked about pension spiking, we haven't seen that. We need actual identification of roots. Then we need an actual action plan that will have clean policies and procedures going forward. Someone needs to own each piece of that action plan, and there has to be a due date, not it just drops off and we're never going to talk about it again. I would propose, it sounds like we have a lot of people in the audience here who have month after month, including myself, said, we'll help. Let's have an ad hoc committee. Put together an ad hoc committee of people in the city who volunteer to help, who may have expertise. Let's run a root cause analysis on each and every one of these issues, have actual action plans. Now, this whole thing may just drop off too, but I'm hoping not. Going to what Mr. Magerle said about the HR consultant, I would ask that two things also be looked at in that request. Number one is that we look at the policies and procedures that we have in place right now to make sure they're strong so that the city is protected against potential liability exposure. And then number two, an assessment of how much exposure we have right now. Tim, I know at our last council meeting you stated that you think we do have exposure right now. I don't mean to speak for you, but I think that's what I heard. That you said I think potentially we could potentially have some liability exposure having to do with HR issues in this town right now. I don't mean to put you on the spot,
Actually,
but that's
what I said
heard.
was, anytime, almost any situation carries a certain amount of exposure, and then you're trying to figure out what's an acceptable amount of exposure. And then I went further to say that, is it possible that a relationship between folks working together could increase exposure for liability? Is it possible? Certainly. Is it, now, is that a significant amount that would deem dealing with that situation differently? That's for the folks, the mayor and people like that to evaluate and make a determination. I think HR is, that's the type of stuff they do. So do I think that type of analysis is a fair analysis? Certainly.
Would that be an analysis that would be better, now I'm talking about just the liability exposure analysis. Would that be better conducted by an HR consultant or a labor and employment attorney?
Probably, ideally, a little bit of both.
I couldn't agree more, and I would propose that we have both an HR consultant and a labor and employment attorney brought in to assess the situation where we have a clear policy and procedure in place that's not being followed. Again, going to root cause analysis. Why isn't it being followed? Is it not being followed because the atmosphere here at City Hall is so loosey-goosey that clear, excellent procedures are not happening? Matt, when you came to the city, you came from the military, and I was really, really happy you came. I thought coming from the military, you would be like this with the city. That's the way a city needs to be run. A city needs to be run like a $16 million business. A city needs to be run to be accountable to all us out here. I got my tax bill right down here under my chair that I'm going to go down and pay right now. I don't want to pay no more next year. It's already really high as everybody else's is here. So I would submit that, one, let's have an ad hoc committee to do a root cause analysis, not only, number one, on the pension spiking, and then number two, have an action plan that comes out of there that has actual, actionable, measurable items with an owner and a due date. And then number two, that we have the consultants that we need in the city, that we have a forensic accountant to go back and look at the last 10 years. If Nicole and Steph haven't made the case for that, I don't know who can. You all can appropriate the funds for a forensic accountant to go back over the last 10 years. What could it hurt? And then number two, that we get the adequate consultants in here. That would be a labor and employment attorney as well as an HR consultant. I don't know how much we gave to CT for the zoning folks. We paid for Elisa, one way or the other, we paid for Elisa to come back and forth from North Carolina. If the best folks are not in the city, let's be good stewards of our money, but let's get the folks that we need to get policies and procedures in place so that the city can be run excellently. Thank you for listening to my comments.
I want to follow up with what she said about accountability and, you know, how we need procedures and policies in place and examples of violations here that we've had. So as I'm doing my research on this, and, you know, this morning I got up, drank my cup of coffee, and I typed in the computer, how much can a city administrator spend without council approval in Kentucky? AI generated the whole thing, right? 2 pages. Example of violation. The importance of council approval for spending outside the budget was highlighted in a 2025 news report from Fort Thomas, Kentucky. In this case, the city administrator admitted to making a pension payment without council approval, violating both city and state law. What more do we need? Do we need to hire an attorney to find out we're acting inappropriately or not following statutes? One thing, I said Kentucky. First thing that comes, we are embarrassing. This is popping up everywhere when somebody looks up something. It's our job to fix it now.
Adam, so that statement, there was enough funds in the budget to pay for that. So I did
You
not.
amended the budget to make the funds, or you would add it to the next year's budget.
You guys had already amended the
169
budget before that, and there was enough money in the budget to make that payment. So it was not illegal. What I should have done is notified council that there was a spiking bill, but I did not spend.
There was $169,000. You spent $277.
Let
That's
him finish.
$108,000 over.
Okay. There was adequate funding in the current budget for the bill that I had paid. What I said was that I should have told council that there was a spiking bill, so you guys were aware of that.
You amended the budget to include that. There wasn't, period.
We've got
Even
another-
Linda said there was $169,000. That's not $277 approved. Still $108,000 over the allotted amount you approved in that budget. You amended the budget to try to hide it, and then you didn't tell us about it, period. Tell anybody, not even the chair of finance. You should be furious. Makes you look bad.
We've got another individual that's ready to speak.
Hi, I'm Fred Otto from Rossford Avenue. I have a little bit different view from some of the people here. I mean, probably agree or disagree on some things. I'm very happy with city government in Fort Thomas. I appreciate everything the council does, Mr. Kramer, the fire chief, the police chief, Public Works. I've had a very great quality of life being in Fort Thomas. And I think the bigger issue is that I get a little concerned because when at any time a council gets involved in saying such nasty and disparaging remarks among themselves, the city employees, number one, I think it puts us in a really bad civil liability view in the long run. Like if someone feels there was a criminal action that was wrong here, I don't think there is criminal intent. I don't think there's any criminal intent from anyone in this room or in city administration. I just don't think there was criminal intent. I mean, if there was, you could call a lot of agencies in, you could go to the grand jury, you could do a lot of things. Now, I do appreciate all of you, and I mean all of you, for coming up with these issues and identifying some of the things that we need to improve. But in the long run, this spiking issue is going to occur again, and I'll explain why. Mr. Beazle brought it up. We are the same size, we're larger in area than the city of Newport, and we're a larger population base in Newport. I'm sure with the entertainment and with the commercial, they have a daytime or nighttime population that's more. But the problem is that you're never going to get away from overtime for public safety services in Fort Thomas. And here's the reason why. If you look at Newport, they've almost got double the police officers, double the firefighters. Like Newport has 2 fire stations. We don't have that human resource overhead. And the reason why we came up as a city, you all did, not me, city administration did over the years, to keep us efficient, effective, and having equitable services through the city. But I can give you an example. Chief Kilgore, excellent, one of the best around, in my opinion. If he has a SWAT call out, or he has to work the 4th of July parade, or he has to work in these special events, it's going to wind up in overtime. And you've got such few employees, you've got many that are close to retirement age, that he's going to have to utilize them. The fire chief, I don't know if you would agree or not, you have to use a call-out service sometimes to get people on board if they have an emergency. But I have a real concern. I was here in 1967 when they dedicated this building. I have never heard such disparaging remarks made about employees. And I don't know who made the mistakes in this situation, but I know there was no criminal intent. I just don't think there is. And I really get concerned when I hear all this stuff going on, even how, and I appreciate the work you're doing. I really do. But I think we need to get this problem solved. And, the lady that brought up a root analysis, I can tell you what that is right now. Your taxes will have to go up dramatically to cover public safety services, because if you don't have overtime, you've got to hire a lot more people. Would you all agree with that? Have you thought about that? Because you would have to have a lot more firemen or firefighters, a lot of police officers to cover the amount, because you're really at the bare minimum to provide services. So I guess what I'm saying is that let's get this over with. I mean, I hate these disparaging marks made towards city employees, past, present city employees. I don't like the attitude of, we've never had this negativity in the city. I've seen a lot of cities in northern Kentucky, and I appreciate you bringing up the issues, but keep rewinding and going over the same issues every meeting. It doesn't make sense. And I'll tell you, I've known Joe Ewald all my life, knew his father. I knew Harry McKnight, the city treasurer. Hey, maybe there were mistakes being made, but hey, let's move on. And Ben, I think you're getting a lot of disparaging remarks today because you're on the finance committee. Well, you're a council person. You're not going to know everything going on. And even Matt may not know everything going on. But let's get it over with. We're getting all this negative press because of the same old stuff every meeting, and it's not doing us any good.
And Fred, I've kind of held other people's feet to the fire, and I think you've been dancing around the spiking issue, but just if we can make sure we stay to the
Okay,
agenda item.
but the spiking issue is going to come back to haunt us unless you hire a lot more people, because you got to have overtime. And I don't have any more to say, but I'm just telling you, I talk to people in the community, and there's a lot of other issues that need to be addressed that are being kind of put in the background because we're tied up on the same meetings. Well, what happened to this? What happened to that? Hey, if anyone thinks there's criminal activity on the spiking issue, every Thursday, grand jury meets. Go down and testify. Talk to the Commonwealth Attorney. Thank you all. But I do want to say, I sincerely mean it. I want to thank the city administration, the city council, the mayor, and everyone. We've had a really, really great run on good quality of life. I mean, if you don't believe me, go down to Rossford Park every morning. You'll see the public works people cleaning the spot out. Or you walk down the street, you see a police car going down the street. I had a neighbor, 20 medical runs from the fire department. Those guys always showed up with a smile and kindness to do their job. I think we're focusing too much on the negativity. Thank you. You all have a good day.
I can't let that pass without making a point of the citizens in this community. Sir, could you wait for 1 minute? He doesn't want to hear this. We were called from this podium, a group of people who are just spreading cancer across this city. With our negative talk, we were accused of sitting in the coffee shop at Fort Thomas Coffee, and when someone comes in to look at a condo to buy upstairs, that we tried to talk them out of it. That is a bold-faced lie. And to say that the only negatives are going against council and administration and all, not true. I've been asked specifically in a public place by a city employee, quit coming to the meetings. You shouldn't be going. We don't listen to you. You make note. And this was 3 years ago. Stay home, quit coming. Of course, I had lunch that day with my attorney for a different reason, just for social. I said, you know what they said to me? He said, he's crossing a line. He can't order you not to come to a meeting. It's a public meeting. So it's not all this way. I hope you all accept that. I have heard so much support for not everybody on council, but for many on council. If this man is hearing some negatives, did he hear the negative the other day about Rossford Park? How the people there, are being not nice to other people? It's not all directed at you. If you think there's no problems, I don't, you're living in a dream world, but the
Joan, he-
negativity is
He spoke
two-sided.
his mind. We gave you a response that's well beyond the 5 minutes. I think we need to get back to the meeting.
I feel it's unfair to go unchallenged when we were called cancer.
And you spoke.
I mean, I like to speak about the overtime, when he says that we're short-staffed, maybe we run thin, but the state had to get involved in order to manage the overtime because it was getting ridiculous because it was costing our state money, you know what I mean? So you can spread it out a little bit more, but I mean, everybody knows, I have nothing against fire and police, I love them all, but, the last 3 years, they used it to spike their own retirement fund. It is what it is, it was allowed, and then the state had to get involved to do that, and he's a retired police officer, you know what I mean? Fred is a fantastic human being, and so is Joe, as we've all said, but running short-staffed isn't a reason for the pension spiking. It's not, so.
Mr. Mayor, I assume we don't have any other speakers.
Okay. You want to move to executive then?
Yeah, well, let's have someone,
Read
I think I gave it to Jeff.
Are we ready? Read the
Yes.
executive session. All right, I'd like to make a motion to enter an executive session per KRS 61.810, paragraph if discussions or hearings in which might lead to the appointment, discipline, or dismissal of an individual employee, member, or student without restricting that employee's, members, or student's right to a public hearing if requested. Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'm going to.
Second. Any opposed? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Hey, Eric, I'm,
Play in this, or?
quick rest.
Now we're going to enter into executive session. When we get into
Yes, okay.